Madam Speaker, it's good to be back in this place after some time away at home in the community. Time made longer by, I think, a government that took an extended break from doing what Canadians expected, which is what we're here to talk about. And I do wish you a Happy New Year, Madam Speaker, but I can't say the same for all Canadians who I think over the past number of weeks have watched what's becoming known as a reckless world tour unfold, one without a clear worldview at a moment where our relationship with the U.S. is uncertain and fragile, if I'm being polite. And at a time when Canadians are looking for reassurance about their jobs, about their future, about the country's resilience, they are instead giving confusion and mixed signals and growing insecurity, and most of all, a growing distance between words and outcomes. So we come here to this House to hold the government accountable and advocate for better policies and serve Canadians in a fight for a country that we all love. And it comes as no newsflash to anybody that this country is under threat. Our sovereignty is being menaced, not just by somebody south of the border, but also by a range of hostile actions and nations from all across the world. And we'd like to think that our government would stand up to these threats and make our nation safe and secure. In fact, that is the first job of any government. But what if the record of the Liberals over the last decade stands in direct contradiction to doing just that? 10 years of choices have steadily eroded Canada's strength and independence, leaving our country less self-reliant and more exposed over a full spectrum of national capacity. That's military, it's political, it's economic, it's diplomatic. And in moments of global uncertainty, leadership isn't measured by the words spoken abroad, but it's about the resilience that we build here at home. And I can stand here and exhaust my time, far more than that, cataloging this government's failures, from allowing foreign interference to take root in Canada, to leaving our citizens exposed to intimidation by terrorist-led organizations, or keeping critical minerals in the ground beneath our feet, which the world urgently needs to get to other markets. But Canadians don't need another inventory of failure. We've been there. They live with those consequences every single day, and they're seeing them right now more than ever. And it is the same Liberal members that created these things, the very people that insisted that they were good for Canada, doubled down time and time and again and called others names for just merely raising the concern over the last decade of what Canada didn't do. They're now insisting that they're the ones to fix it. But here's their big idea on an action plan to fix these problems. It's another speech, it's another press conference, it's another committee study, a report back after it got more out of control, another Band-Aid, perhaps another project office. Whatever it is, tends to be just words. And I see members today patting themselves here on the back about a speech the Prime Minister gave in Davos last week. And as somebody who's written many, many speeches, I give him credit where credit is due. But here's where we diverge on opinion. And this was before the public and private climb downs that we're now hearing about. They view the speech as an announcement or a proclamation, and they view that as the solution. And these things aren't actually solutions. They are stepping stones. They are meant to communicate an idea, but it is not the actual action. But one grand speech from the Prime Minister can't erase a 10-year legacy that has left our country's voice diminished and nearly meaningless in the face of global threats that we're facing today. And the platitudes from the pundits and the chattering classes will not put food on people's tables, they will not build pipelines, they will not create jobs, or they will not leave us an ounce more independent than we were previously. And yes, saying the right words means nothing when you won't do the right things to match them. Or at least that was the talk then. You see, I agree with the Prime Minister when he says that Canada should rely more on itself, reduce its vulnerabilities. work with its partners who share our interests. These things are things that I think everybody in this House agrees on. And it's things that Conservatives have been saying for over a decade. In fact, they're the things that we've been talking about doing for nearly a year now since he became Prime Minister. He wants to, quote, build, baby, build. He wants to, quote, invest more and spend less. He wants to make our, quote, our country, quote, an energy superpower, or like whatever the latest tagline is. We agree in theory with those things. And since those words were spoken first, there's nothing of substance that has followed. They remain carefully crafted, slogans designed for a speech rather than a plan, and there's no clear path forward. There's no timetable, and there's no meaningful detail outlining what the Prime Minister intends to do. That's right. Or when he intends to do it. And I know that I'll hear more as I split my time with the member from Nanaimo. And what's worse is our deficit has gone up, not down. We haven't built a single mile of new pipeline or even cleared the path for it. The biggest achievement right now is an office that has added more bureaucrats. In fact, 96% of what that office has spent has been $1 million on hiring bureaucrats, and not a single new project is even close to an approvals process. So here's where we're challenging the Prime Minister to do. We want him to put his money where his mouth is. And we said that we would help him do that. We want him to make this country better. So let's stop talking about it and start doing it. There's a piece of legislation, there's a plan right here in front of us in this House of Commons to consider. It's the Conservatives' Canadian Sovereignty Act. It's a blueprint for an action plan that the Prime Minister seems to be missing. And there's 3 main points in it. First, it would restore Canada's standing as a competitive, resource-producing nation by dismantling the laws that actively impede the development. The same laws that we helped him give himself the power to override when we helped him pass C5. He has extraordinary powers now, and there are still things in the way, and we're offering him that same goodwill in this House to speed this up. Measures like C69 have layered excessive paperwork and duplication onto the approvals process, and he knows that. He's slowing projects without delivering a public benefit. That's exactly what that bill does. Repealing the industrial carbon tax, the emissions cap, the EV mandate, and the plastic bans would remove the unnecessary burdens that our industry has to compete on the global market with, and who can't. And the Prime Minister knows that as well. That's why he gave himself excessive powers to clear the path for resource projects. So I invite him to give him excessive powers where we could repeal all of this, and we would help him do it today. Second, a truly competitive economy has to reward those who commit their labor and their capital in this country. In Canada's success, the Canadian Sovereignty Act would do exactly that by introducing a reinvestment tax credit, which eliminates the capital gains on profits invested in the Canadian economy. This would encourage domestic investment, strengthen productivity, and keep capital working here at home. And third, the Act would finally remove the long-standing internal trade barriers, which he stood at a microphone and said were gone. This costs our country $200 million a year, and they are still very much there. Just because you say they're not there at a microphone doesn't mean they're not there. And finally, the Act would safeguard Canadian innovation and intellectual property from being appropriated by foreign competitors, particularly those with the economic and security interests that don't align with ours. And we saw plenty of that in the last week. We can do this all right now and support sovereignty. And everything in this bill translates to more jobs, more prosperities, and by virtue, a better economy and more money in the pocket of every single Canadian. And what's more is that these are the things that the Prime Minister in the past said that he wanted to do. So it is our job to help him do exactly that. And if he would adopt this plan, I think we would get to moving a lot quicker. We would have shovels in the ground. We would have more money in the pockets of Canadians. It isn't that complicated. When you say that you're going to do something from a podium or in a speech, you should work to act on that.